Hi everyone, and welcome to my coverage of the very exciting Chessable Champions Tour Masters. Every day I'll be bringing you highlights, my game of the day or games of the day from that round. Remember, please do like this video and subscribe to the channel. It means a lot. I'll give you a lot of love back if I ever see you. Now, the Chessable Masters, it started yesterday now, and it had a really interesting range of players. You can see the players next to me that way, and you got some regular names that we know like Wesley So, Aronian, who won the last tour, but some interesting new names. We have the youngest ever grandmaster in the world playing, Mishra from America, only 12 years old. I'm a little bit sad that Nepo's not also playing this competition. I would have loved to have seen them meet each other after their kind of altercation, but a very exciting lineup. But the player we're going to be looking at today, and we're going to look at two of his games, is one of the most exciting players in the world, and that is Mamedyarov of Azerbaijan. He's so much fun to watch. He plays aggressive, attacking chess with unique ideas. And the first game I want to show you of his is from round one, where he's playing Itsuraga. And as we can see from the standings there, Itsuraga hasn't played many of these before, but of course, incredibly strong player who now resides in Spain. And what was interesting about this was the opening idea. It's something I've never seen before. When I saw it, I was like, why haven't I played this opening? So I wanted to show you this game just so you can maybe try this idea out yourselves. And it's an idea for white after the move d4 that you can play against the King's Indian defense, an opening I've always struggled against. So knight to f6, and now c4, the standard move. Pawn to g6, knight to c3. So this is what I'd say is stage one of white's plan. And now you have to be ready for d5, but bishop g7, the King's Indian defense, is an opening I really enjoy playing. It was favored by Kasparov, by Bobby Fischer, and by other dynamic players. And it's an opening I've always really struggled against with white, because I find that, okay, you can build up a big position in the middle with e4, but black gets great attacking chances. And I've never found a line really against the King's Indian defense where white gets a good initiative. He gets the attack. It's always black who gets the attack, but white gets the positional center, and I love attacking. But now Mamedyarov plays the move knight to f3. Now let me just also, while we're doing this, just show you the pictures of the players. Again, I think it's always nice to get a bit of background. There we have Mamedyarov looking very serious, and his opponent in this game is Itsuraga. And again, both very strong players here. Now, in this position, knight to f3 seems like a very normal move, and black just castles. And here, well, again, e4's the main move, but this is where Mamedyarov now starts to play some very interesting ideas, starting with bishop g5. Now, this move on its own is maybe not that exciting, but it's the way that Mamedyarov continues. Now, what is the idea of this move? Well, it could be a lot of things. I mean, white could still be going e4, but the way I'd love to play this position, and again, I don't know why it's not occurred to me in this situation, is the caveman attack. And I would love to play queen d2, bishop h6, h4, h5, open up the h file, and checkmate. As simple as that. And I think this could be deadly at a lot of levels. Mamedyarov proved that this idea was even deadly at this level. He got it twice in this first day's activity. I mean, let's just take a look. Well, if black plays a normal King's Indian defense move, d6, we can try queen d2. And if black, let's just say, play some quiet moves, which you probably shouldn't do, well, we can either go bishop h6 straight away, which I think I prefer, because now black can't play h5, and we've literally got this strong idea, just h4, h5 with checkmate, just to show you if black ignores this, which of course he shouldn't do, but I want to show you white's idea. Let's say h4, okay, we can flick in a b5, I don't care. We can go h5, and all of a sudden black's probably lost in this situation. Knight takes leads to rook takes, pawn takes, queen g5, winning immediately. A standard attacking idea. And if black, let's say, takes on c4, the idea here is to take on g6 and of course take on g7, bring the queen in with checkmate. So this is the standard attack and the standard attacking idea, all starting with this bishop g5 move. Now, little things to bear in mind, as we're going to see, if black ever plays c5, you should try to keep it as white closed in the center with d5. Try to keep the center closed down, because your main idea is this super aggressive attack. But Mamedyarov twice yesterday faced the move h6. And again, this is where the second part of the stage comes in. So you might get this position after bishop g5, and at the end of this video I will use the website I've created, GChess, which I think is the most powerful way to investigate this position more. Hope some of you guys at home will check out gchess.com. I'll show you its uses at the end, but let's have a look at the games first. But there are many other options. We'll investigate them at the end of the video. But if you just want to see the games, let's have a look at what happened h6. So now what do you do with the bishop? We don't really want to swap that bishop off because it'll be very hard to break down black's position. Bishop f4 looks like the most natural move, but the bishop is actually a big target here. It can be hit at some point by knight h5, maybe d6 and e5. And the move that Mamedyarov played, bishop d2, is pretty genius-like, I think. Now, I'm not claiming white has an opening advantage, but you don't really get an opening advantage in nearly any opening. But what I am claiming is that this particular setup is something that might appeal to certain players, like myself, who enjoy attacking and playing a unique game. Black will probably be out of theory, and the basic idea in this position is to go queen c1, attack h6, and then play with the h-pawn, trying to open up the rook. So very similar to the idea we just saw. Now let's just see this in practice. Well, Itzraga played d6, a standard move, and now queen c1. How do you defend this pawn? Well, it's not so simple. If you go g5, this looks really ugly. I'm going to play h4, and the black king side is going to fall apart in this position. So king h7 is natural, and now one of the main points behind Mamedyarov's play, h4. I love it. And the idea is to use this h-pawn, and black will have to play g5. And then black's always got to think about a sacrifice on g5 and other tactical motifs. Now, when I was looking at this game, I was also thinking that maybe h3 is an interesting way to play, with white trying to use Gary to open up the position. So that might be something you can investigate. But I think, you know, what black should do in this type of position, while we're doing a wing attack, black should probably strike with c5. And if we keep it closed, then e6. And black seems to be getting enough action in the center here. But I do like h4. Itzraga decided he needed to play c5. And now the standard way to meet this, d5. And what should black play here? Well, black decides to play e5, keeping the center closed. And now I like the next move, e4. Now this does go back into more standard King's Indian positions now. But h4, as well as being a very aggressive attacking move, it can be a very good positional idea as well. So as well as being a caveman attack, it has another side to it. And that other side is shown if black now goes for the main plan in the King's Indian defense. And that is moving the knight backwards and playing f5. Without this move f5 in the King's Indian defense, black will struggle to get counterplay. But now, with this pawn structure that black has, white can play a very clever idea, and that is the move h5. Why is this a clever idea? Well, if white played a slower idea, let's just say bishop e2, black will play f5. And if we take on f5, black wants to take with a pawn, and these pawns will probably give black an advantage now. They can work very well together. What we want black to do in this position is to take with a piece, which is much less dangerous for us because we got chances of taking the e4 square. And again, this is positional thinking. So by playing h5, our positional idea is that we want the g-pawn to move, and if black continues with this idea, well, we might have a sacrifice, but I don't think that works. Instead, I'd like to move bishop d3. And now if black can't break with f5, we have a standard break with b4. And this is, again, very, I'd say, quite deep middle game ideas you need to understand when you're playing an opening. But this idea of playing b4 is going to give white a long time advantage. And if we rule out black's one counterplay move, f5, we stop all of his playing. Remember, chess is about not just doing your own plans, but stopping your opponent's plans. And I don't think f5 is a good move now, because after we capture, black has to take with a bishop, and there's a number of good moves here. But this diagonal is very weak, and even something like queen c2, and you get some position where white dominates the light squares in the center. Looks very good for white. So we can see this whole idea has some really clever positional ideas. Now knight to h5 was played, and I like this because it stops this move. And now Mamedyarov puts a bishop on d3. In actual fact, I think bishop e2 may have been a little bit more accurate, and this has some clever ideas that if black now plays f5, the move he wants to play, we can take on f5, and if pawn takes f5, we have the very strong knight g5 check. And after pawn takes, we can see the tactical ideas that Mamedyarov has really made possible from the opening. I think white's winning here. So bishop e2 might have been okay. Bishop d3 played, and now if we go on after this move, bishop g4, and now we have, after bishop g4, the knight pops back, and the idea is to go f3 and g4. So black gets his f5 break in, and there's a little tactical exchange now. f3, the knight pops in, the rook has to move, the bishop has to go to the square, and now queen c2. And I think this position is pretty unbalanced. I think if white wanted to keep the advantage earlier, the bishop should have gone to e2. But after some more moves, white plays very simple chess, and we can see that Itsuraga plays a very exciting idea, but this knight e2 is good. And I have to say here again, white has got the advantage. He's threatening just to pick this up, castle, and get a rook to h1. Now the interesting moment I wanted to mention was after g5, white did castle, and now g4, and a very clever move here from white after g4, and the clever move was just to play rook takes h4 in this position. Now rook takes g3 would have won an extra pawn, but black can open things up, and this gives black quite a lot of play. But the very nice exchange sacrifice, rook takes h4, I really do like here, because the point is after queen takes h4, f4, yes, white has lost the exchange, but the bishop on h5 is dead. White's bishops have a great potential to open up. The g3 pawn is weak. A rook should try to come to h1, and this is very, very nice play. Black now plays knight to d7 to try to keep that pawn contained, and now just simply f5. And after knight to f6, I think we now see a slight error. And the very nice thing about this is, if we're going to quickly look at the next game Mamedyarov played in this system, and he could have played the same sort of, just picture this position, try and memorize it. In the game, Mamedyarov played rook g1, which seemed like a very decent idea, with the idea of going queen d1 and rook h1. But let's just show how that game went, and we'll come back to this position later on. Now, we'll very quickly go into this. The rook did come here, and queen f6, and now white wins the queen, but black gets a lot of material for the queen. And after queen takes g4, we can see that black has the extra material, but his pieces are very badly placed. He tries to defend his knight, and now I think an extremely clever move. Itsuraga plays brilliantly here. A lot of players have played bishop h5, trying to hold on to their pieces, but when the white queen comes into the position, the white queen is just picking up all the pawns, and I think this should be winning eventually, with white just pushing these pawns up the board. Strong players realise when they have to give material back to defend, and black now sets up a fortress in a very clever way by playing knight to h5. And it's interesting to see here that after g4, and now another brilliant move, rook g5, keeping the fortress, the computer thinks white's winning, but I think it's a draw. I think there's one position where the computer doesn't realise black has a blockade on the dark squares. And as the game continued, so after pawn takes pawn, black now managed to shut everything down. The game goes on for a while, but it is now quite clear that there's no real way black can or white can do anything, and it's a blockaded position. But the interesting moment where I think Mamedyarov misses a fantastic opportunity, it's here where he plays rook g1 with the idea of queen d1 and rook h1. Maybe you can see a better way of doing it. I think a better way of playing in this position would have actually been king b1. And the point of this clever move is that we want to go queen c1 and rook h1. Why is this better? Why, the queen on c1 is attacking h6, which is, I feel, a much better way, and this would have probably won the game. Okay, so now we're just going to go to the next game, and instead of playing against Itzaraga here, this is in round 5. That was the round 1 game, and his opponent in this game is David Anton of Spain, who gets invited on a regular basis to this tournament. And here is David Anton, just in case you forgot what Mamedyarov looks like. Here we have Mamedyarov. David Anton, one of the leading Spanish players, one of the leading players from Spain, a real talented player. And they now play exactly the same opening. So let's just have a look how this one goes. Okay, we've lost his name. Let's get that back up. Well, it starts off, and I just want to, again, just so you can play this opening yourselves, hopefully you're going to learn a new opening against the Kingsian defense. For me, this is such an exciting idea. When I see new opening ideas, I'm like, wow, new opening ideas in this modern era of chess, or at least new to me. I feel like because of my 30 odd years of playing chess at high level, I've seen most opening ideas, but when you see something like this, it's like, I love it. It excites me greatly to see a new aggressive way to play. Okay, so in this game, they have the same opening setup, and we're just going to look at the opening here. And knight f3, we don't commit the e-pawn until later on. The most important idea is to go bishop g5 with queen d2 and bishop h6 as a possibility, h4, h5 coming. And again, h6 was played, the bishop drops back to d2, and now David Anton tries to strike out immediately with this c5 move. How do we meet that? d5, d6, and now the same plan. So white's kind of done stage 1. What is stage 2? Stage 2 is to try and force that king onto h7. If black ever plays h5, this is the only other way he can try to avoid attack there. I would be playing h3 and g4. And again, we're trying to play in an aggressive, exciting way. Let's just say a6, g4. The point of this idea is we're trying to checkmate. If black takes here, we have bishop h6, and we have the same attacking formation. We've got our rook in the game, and this is very, very dangerous for black, maybe winning for white, at least dangerous. So king h7 played, and now what's the move? The move is h4, and this is just a really nice move. How does black now meet this? Well, he went knight g4, trying to blockade some squares. Now, knight bd7 is a move I think a lot of players would play, and here I just want to show you some of the potential of white's idea. h5, g5, and I think here white is actually winning with knight takes g5, and this is a sacrifice that black always has to watch out for. Why is this winning? Well, after pawn takes, we have the intermezzo move, queen c2 check. And the point being, if the king goes back, coming forwards is clearly going to be checkmated somehow. I'll let you guys work that one out, probably some beautiful checkmate. If the king comes back, we use Harry. If we get our piece back, we'll have a massive attack on the h-file. And after h7, king g7, because the unfortunate placing of the knight, queen f5, and black can resign. It's going to be checkmate extremely shortly here, showing you a lot of danger with this. Now, knight g4 is played in the game, and I think in this system, once you played stage 2, you often want to play e4. And after this one, we got this setup where Mamedyarov can always think about taking here, but after bishop d3, we just have a very unique position. Now, I don't think black is necessarily worse here, but I think this is just an exciting, interesting position to play. White has ideas of e5, taking on g5, and at some point castling queenside. And the way the game went, well, White managed to win the game. Let's blast through the moves extremely quickly. He played some clever maneuvering, and eventually he got some good exchanges in, and the winning idea was, well, he got his knight to this square, which won the game. So very exciting opening idea. Now I'm gonna just have a look at this opening in more detail using the program that myself and others created, gchess.com. So if you leave the video now just for the highlight of this opening idea, thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. But now I'm just going to do what I would do as a grandmaster to try and understand this opening that tad more. But before I do that, actually we should show the standings. So here are the standings after day 1. Now there's 15 games. Day 2 is today, day 3, and the top 8 players go through to the knockout stage. You may notice from other competitions, Wesley So dominant. I thought Vladislav Artyomov was a great bet. He was like 30 to 1 on one of the betting sites. Really good bet, very dangerous player. So at the moment, the last person who's currently in qualification spot is Jordan van Foreest on 3 points. And you can see that Mishra and Humpy and Ju Wen-jun are having a bit of a tough time. But let's remember, there's 5 games today, 5 games tomorrow, 15 games in total there. So that's the standings after day 1. Again, I will be bringing you the highlights every day and updating you with the way things are. But I'm now going to have a look at this opening, and this is the program, like I say, I've created, GChess. And the way it works is basically it has many different functions, and I wanted to see if this opening's been played before. And you can see when I put in the moves in here, I'm doing it with our encyclopedia, and it's updating things every move. And I think the key position to me is after bishop g5. This is where the opening kind of starts. And I can already see that Grandmaster, all of our encyclopedia analysis is done by Grandmasters. And I can see that Grandmaster, in this case, Danny Gormally, has extensively analyzed this. So the great thing is, if you want to look at this opening, you can go into GChess and you can see that there's already Grandmaster analysis. You've got a little book here which you can read. You can save this with the little function down here. There's a little heart button, heart thing, and that saves it to your own database, which you can then access on your phone at any time. But for me, I can now just have a look at this line and see what Danny Gormally says. And he actually says this is played, can be, by Shak Mamajarov. I didn't know this, I didn't realize, and as a very aggressive idea. And he gives the main line as d6, and now he gives e3 as the old main line. However, it seems that black can equalize with these 2 moves, so that's also good. But he does say queen d2 is the main alternative. We can look at the text here. White doesn't commit the e-pawn, and he may play e4. This is a more modern interpretation of the line. So for me, this is eye-opening, and we can see that there's many interesting ideas here. And of course, I can flick through the moves and see some of the analysis. And I can do this by right-clicking, clicking on the bits I want, and it updates. And the other thing that's very useful with GChess, I won't bore you by analyzing this myself now, but we can use the other tabs at the top here if you follow my mouse. So I've got Grandmaster Analysis, which I have access to if I subscribe, so I can really learn about this. I've got the book, but I can also go to Top Games and I can have a look. And I just didn't realize that this was a common line. So when I said earlier in the video, oh, this is a brilliant new idea, it's actually not, but we learn something all the time. And we can see that Shak has even played this against Magnus Carlsen. So I can bring this onto the board and I can click through the moves here and see how that game developed. It updates here, which is very good because I get a feel for how he plays. It saves it as a separate PGN. If we go back to this position, I can see my good friend Gawain Jones has played this. How did Gawain play this position? Well, he played, it seems, like Magnus Carlsen, well, like the game against Magnus Carlsen with this idea. So there's many quite cool features, and you can see that you can get many different PGNs saved. So I can click on all the relevant things. I can save them all to my own. Let's see that in action. So if I go here, I can create a new folder. I can give it a new game name. Let's create a new folder. Let's say King's Indian Defense Idea, and we can give it a description. Let's call it MAM, and I can just save that, and that will now be saved for me to access for all eternity. And I can just add all these PGNs in. I can organize it and have it stored, like if I'm on the train. I think, oh, what about that line on the way to a match, and do it. We've also got the online games here, so I can see the top online games. We can see that Hikaru lost to this variation, very interesting. And we can see that Crank, I don't know who that is, played it. Oh, this is the way I'd like to play it. Castles queenside, bishop h6. This is kind of my, interpretation. And look, he just took on g7 and went h4, and he went for this blunt checkmate idea. That's a nice idea. We can also even look in this position if there's any YouTube videos, and we can do a little search. Not yet. I'll make sure that we get that added in. So many features on gchess.com, but very exciting game there that was played in the round, well, the first day of the Chessable Masters. That's my update from day one. I'm going to remember that idea. I'm now going to use GChess to have a look a bit deeper. Thank you for watching, and of course I'll be back every day with a new update. Ciao.